All right. Are we now recording?
Not yet.
Sorry?
Not yet. We're just hitting the stream, so it's just takes a minute or two to come up. I've still got 1 minute to 7, so I think we're good. Now it says this meeting is being live streamed. Okay.
Okay, so just reconvening the regular meeting of council, just again, respectfully acknowledging that this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territories of the Sinawas First Nations. We're on to item 7 of our agenda. So we have the consent agenda. It's just the one item listed. I'll just make the motion that the listed for item 7A and the consent agenda be approved. Do you have a seconder to that? So second by Councillor Savage. There's no discussion on this item, just simply call the question. All those in favor, simple showing of hands. Okay, that's carried.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Gusselbrock.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
That should have probably been done at the beginning of the meeting, but you know, through to council, we can just by unanimous consent of council, we can entertain it. Does anybody object? And then we'll vote on whether or not we. So you're objecting, Councillor Savage, to amending the agenda? Okay. And I guess we'll put it to a vote then. I'm sorry, there's like background noise. I don't know what it is.
Councillor Director Coates, you meant.
Thank you.
There's just a lot of background noise. Okay, thank you. All right. So Councillor Gusselbrock wants to amend the agenda. So at this point, I think procedurally we can just, you can make your motion now, Councillor Gusselbrock.
Thank you. I just simply move item 12B, which is the Minetown Day motion, move it to following item 8 so that we get to it.
Okay, so we have a seconder to that, second by Councillor Proctor. So this is just amending the agenda just to have item, there it is, 12B. Yeah, that's fine. Any debate or on this? It's been moved and seconded. So Proctor, discussion on that. And this is just debating moving the item. Okay, hearing none. Through the rest of council. Nothing. Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to public input. So you said after item A, correct, Councillor Gusselbrock? Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, I didn't record a vote on the consent agenda.
Oh, it was unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, just for public input, do we have anybody registered to speak this evening, Director Coates?
Yes, there are 2 speakers registered to speak tonight. The first one is Toby Seward, and he is speaking regarding item 9F, bylaw number 281, rezoning of 6935 Dickinson. He is the applicant and the agent.
Okay.
But he is not currently, oh, he is registered, yes, and he is online. The second one was Ora Chai, who said she wished to speak about item 10C, Sebastian Road beach access, but we do not see her online yet. But if you want to proceed with the first one.
Yes, we can proceed with the first one. So Mr. Seward, you're there. Okay, good. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can.
Thank you. Toby Seward, 1820 Argyle Avenue, and Nanaimo, BC. I have signed up as a delegation to answer any questions council may have regarding this application. This application, as I think council members are aware, is on the southeast part of town. There was another subdivision that's rezoning that recently took place and now is subdivided by the Winley Group. And this application couldn't proceed ahead until that one has, because the Owen Road extension would have to extend through the Winley property to this property. The goal is over time that the Owen Road would be extended through to Shook Road. So we're applying for a rezoning to allow this to be divided into in a future subdivision of lots of approximately 1,300 square meters. So as I said, I'm here to answer any questions, but as council has not listened to the staff report or the staff comments, I'm not sure if you want to ask any questions at this time. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, yeah, thank you. At this point, it's really just for input, not for council to enter into dialogue really with the speaker. So unless there was something to clarify, that's about it. Do we have the other speaker ready to go? Ms. Chai?
No, I'm sorry. We do not seem to have her on. If you want to continue, I'll try phoning her.
Sure, we'll just move ahead in our agenda. So now we're moving to item 12. Make sure I got it right here. 12B, was it? Or... yeah, 12B. So we have the Seaside Society August 12th, 2021 Minetown Day Parade road closure. So there's a motion there. I'll just simply read the motion that the closure to traffic be authorized from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday, September 18th, 2021 on that portion of Lantzville Road that from the intersection of Lantzville and Ware Roads with the parade proceeding northwest through the village core along Lantzville Road from Colette Road to Huddlestone Road and then down Huddlestone Road to the entrance to Huddlestone Park to permit the Seaside Community Society to conduct the Minetown Day Children Bike Parade subject to emergency services and transit notification, adequately addressing emergency access issues, and the society retaining a traffic control company to provide the necessary traffic control. So do we have a seconder to that item? Second by Councilor Proctor. Discussion on the item. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a road closure. I don't think we need to have too much debate on that. Through to Councilor Proctor. Okay, nothing. Yeah, through the rest of the council. This is really just a housekeeping thing. We do it every year to facilitate the parade. Okay, so I will simply move to calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so that takes us back in our agenda. Sorry, that's motions. That takes us back to 9B, so bylaw number 200. So Councilor Wilson, you have some recommendations there. The floor is yours.
Sorry, did we skip 9A?
Oh, we did. Sorry.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I just had B on the brain. So,
That's
so we're on 9A. So bylaw 167, that the District of Lantzville Business Bylaw number, actually, number 167, 2020-21 be adopted. Is there a seconder to that? Because I've already read the motion. Councilor Gusbrecht seconding. It's for adoption, so there's no discussion on this item. So I'll simply move to calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's so Councilor Savage is opposed. It's carried. All right, so now that takes us into 9B. So bylaw number 200, Councilor Wilson.
Okay, that good neighbor bylaw number 200, 2021 be amended in clause 23 by striking in quotations, quiet hours in the district are between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., comma, including on beaches, and inserting quiet hours in the district are between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., including on beaches. Furthermore, that good neighbor bylaw number 200.
We'll take them, sorry, Councilor Wilson, we'll take them separately. Yeah, that's okay. All right, do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councilor Gusbrecht. Discussion on the motion. So Councilor Wilson and then Councilor Gusbrecht.
Not really. I just think that if we, there are times during the year where the sun sets a little bit later, And I think that it's appropriate to ask people to be mindful and responsible up until 11 p.m. I think 10 p.m. is a little bit early. So that was just why when I was analyzing the bylaw that the whole thing again, I thought that that would be something that would be welcomed by Lantzville residents.
Okay, through to Councillor Gusbrecht as a seconder. And through to the rest of the council. Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, through to staff, please. How does this relate to the consistency of this bylaw? I've seen different things for different items. Some are 10, now this is 11. For example, with lawn machines, I believe that's until, is there anything in conflict with this? If this was now 11, are there other things that are noise related that end at 10 p.m.?
Staff through to council. It's absolutely up to council if you wish to have different times for different issues. We simply would carry forward those times through in the public education information that we provide into the MTI and the notice of enforcement offenses. So there'd be different types of offenses depending on which type of noise it was. And yes, there are some things that are prohibited at all times. You know, sorry, I'm just on the wrong page here, sorry. And yeah, there's.
Yeah, I guess I could ask the question a better way, please. This now 11 p.m. for quietness, the quiet hours. Is that throughout all of Lantzville, including gatherings, any noise activity and so on, that was before now 10 p.m.? Or is it just specific to certain areas?
It's not for specific areas. You've said in the bylaw that in general, the quiet time is, you know, whether it's 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. That is just in general. And then if you put additional limitations within the bylaw, then you can do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. So my just quick comment then, I apologize, won't be supporting it just because I find so many of the things in this bylaw are so problematic related to interpretation that this is yet another one of them. So thank you.
Additional speakers on this item? Okay, for myself, you know, the interesting part about it is why I have including beaches on there. If it's just a blanket bylaw, like, or part of the bylaw just about quiet hours in the District of Lantzville, why I highlight beaches. So through to staff, is there any advantage to having that in the bylaws? Or to me, it seems redundant.
Well, I would have to go back and check the research. This is a bylaw that's been in development for over a year. There's been many iterations and changes. I believe council at different points did add reference to beaches or to parks, because for some members of the public, they would not, that there's a myth out there, a belief that our bylaws do not apply to the beaches, but they do. So I think that's why you wanted it to be highlighted in there. Although, you know, you're absolutely right. It doesn't say this applies to Lantzville Road, or this applies to, you know, to other areas in the municipality. But it's part of it is the public education process, because there is a mistaken belief out there that municipal bylaws do not apply on the beach.
Okay. All right, unless there's anything further, I will move to calling the question. Councillor Savage.
Yes, now that I fully understand what this is, this is the problem. It cuts both ways. You can have a reasonableness if someone says, now look at, I do shift work, I'm a nurse, whatever, I get up at 4 in the morning. You're referring to a bylaw says the quiet times aren't till 11 p.m. So I'm sorry, I have the right to carry on with my party that's disturbing you for another hour. So sorry, but the bylaw allows me to. That's something where you're tagging your reasonableness on a written bylaw. So that cuts to the point of being too lenient. And on the other hand, it can be too strict. So this is why I'm against writing all this stuff down and try to capture it. It can be misused, and no bylaw can capture every circumstances. So I see having a quiet time not till 11 could be very problematic, with people think now they have the right to be noisy and bother some poor worker. All someone has to do is ask me to be quiet. Doesn't matter what time of the day, and I'll do everything I can to help them out. That's the spirit I prefer. But anyway, I just thought I would point that out, that problematic cuts both ways when you try to define everything by bylaws. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gesselbrecht, I saw your hand go up. Oh, no. Okay, so I'm going to move to calling the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Voting that Councillor Savage is opposed, the amendment carries. So it takes us on to the next one. So Councillor Wilson.
All right. That good neighbor bylaw number 200, 2021 be amended in clause 24D by striking operation of any motorized lawn grooming or garden equipment in the district between the hours of 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. and inserting operation of any motorized lawn grooming or garden equipment in the district between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m.
Okay, do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Proctor. Discussion on the motion. So Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Proctor.
No, I just looked at it in terms of when I analyzed it, just looking at the reasonability of firing up a lawnmower or a weed whacker at, at 7:15 in the morning. I thought that was a little bit too soon. And yeah, people, we have an older community where people sleep in a little bit longer there. They don't have to get up for work. So I thought we could stretch that up to 8 a.m.
Okay, and Councillor Proctor is the seconder. Nothing. Okay, and through to the rest of the council. Okay, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, well, again, this has sort of the same principle as before, but what about section 22 that allows construction to start at 7 a.m.? So here you've got construction with possible excavators going beep, beep, beep when they back up and so on. And really heavy construction that can be very noisy starting at 7. And yet a lawnmower or some other power thing you're using on your lawn is 8 a.m. And again, with construction, if it can't start till 7 a.m., I can see a poor, and I know it says in the construction one that anything noisy, but again, that's open to interpretation. And I would hope that a poor hardworking construction fellow that wants to take advantage in the hot summer of getting in the cooler hours at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m., that if they're doing something quiet on their house project, that they're being considerate of neighbors, or they're so far away from neighbors in a new area, they can be a little more liberal with making noise. I would hope they could do that. But again, where is the reasonableness? It's open to interpretation. So if a neighbor that takes exception to the construction going on reports any worker there early, even though they're not making noise, that could be problematic. And as I pointed out, if there's construction going on with excavators and everything else at 7 a.m., it's quite irrelevant. Some guy that may want to quickly do some work before he goes to work, be it cutting the lawn, weed whacking, whatever power tools are used there. So that's sort of my point, that it's tough to nail all this stuff in writing. So I won't be supporting it for that reason. Thank you.
Okay, any additional speakers? Director Coates, I see your hand up, and then
Sorry, I was just a little bit confused there. There was a reference to construction noise under section 22, and in fact, it's under section 24E, and it talks about no noise before 7 a.m. or after 8 p.m. Nobody's allowed to cause, permit, or allow a person to construct, erect, reconstruct. It goes into the whole list of things that causes noise or disturbs the peace in the neighborhood. But then it goes on, subject to 27H. And if you go to 27H, which is on page 29, there is a process where a construction company could apply to the director of planning to explain why they need an exemption from the noise. But it is a bit more liberal than other noise clauses in the bylaw. And as I realize there's just a difference in opinion of philosophy, but from a staff perspective, it's always good to have the rules in writing for the public so that they can be confident that if there is a complaint, and it's always important to remember that the good neighbor bylaw, well, any of our regulatory bylaws, we're acting based on complaint. So if there's no complaint, there's not an issue. If there is a complaint, they can look at the law and say, yeah, this is what the rule is. Oh, yes, I see you're not following that rule. And if there's a variance process available, then we can advise them of that. Thank you.
okay, so okay, Councilor Wilson, go ahead, and I've got something to say as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, I look at when we're talking construction, and I get it that it's all noise, but I look at construction or the use of excavators more as a temporary thing. You're not going to have someone firing up their excavator at the same time of the week every on the same day of the week at the same time early in the morning. But I think that when you have that homeowner that wants to manicure his lawn every morning, and you happen to be the homeowner that's bought the house next door, that can get a bit disturbing. So that was just my motivation behind that. I do appreciate that they're both noise, but I do believe that there's a difference between the two.
Okay, additional speakers. For myself, this is obviously an interesting one in itself. In this day and age, especially when we get into the summertime, people aren't mowing their lawns that often. They really aren't. I don't know anybody who's mowing their lawn every day or every week, even for that matter. Grass isn't growing because people aren't watering their lawns. Most of the lawns in Lantzville are brown, and that trend is carrying throughout the region. In my opinion, it's somewhat inconsistent with the construction one. Having construction going on even around my place, the machines are running early in the morning, and it's highly annoying. And I'd rather take half an hour of lawnmower or an hour of lawnmower than the constant beep, beep, beep of excavating equipment running. And this is going to be coming at us all throughout the district in Lantzville. So I think that, if anything, if we're going to amend this one, we should be open to amending the one we were just speaking to, or that Director Coates was speaking to, or Councillor Savage's referenced, and that we adjust that one. So for construction noise, it doesn't start until 8 a.m. And I think that's very reasonable. There's going to be a lot of development in Lantzville, and it's noisy, and it does infringe on the peaceful enjoyment. But it's like, oh wow, so sad, too bad. We're building a house. That's not my problem. I don't agree with that. I think it's I trade the lawnmower any day of the week for the constant beeping week after week of machines running. There's going to be a lot of it in the future. So if council's will is to amend this one, then we should be amending, I guess it would be 24E, and changing that time to 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So those are my thoughts. Through to the rest of the council. Councillor Savage.
Yes, just to be helpful with the construction, I brought this up before. I don't know where it is, where I wrote it down, but Qualicum had one I mentioned before. Theirs was a little different. And I believe it was 9 a.m. on Sunday and 8 a.m. on weekdays. Just going from memory, I could be wrong there. I know it was a little bit different there. But again, if you're doing that, like Director Coates brought up, I would hope it would be something that was really allowed construction workers to get in as early as they want, but to do the quiet work. There's tons of quiet work that you can do in house building. It's just the really noisy stuff with the chop saws or excavators. It's the machinery that's the worst. But if it could be itemized so they can go in and paint or do quiet work indoors, then I think that's a good thing. But I would agree that have it more like Qualicum, where the really noisy stuff maybe doesn't start until 8, but then maybe have exceptions. I've seen other noise bylaws that have it so that anything X meters from the nearest resident, it only applies. There's a number of ways to do it, but another way to do it is once all the construction starts is to measure what the problems are and cater amendments to the good neighbor bylaw to work around it. So in summary, I want to help construction workers, but I've had those beeping machines quite a distance from my place, and it really drives you nuts early in the morning when you're sleeping or when you're having a lovely Sunday morning and so on. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, leave it up to council. If you want to address that, I'll support that. If you want to make a change to make it a little later for the noisy stuff of construction, make it 8 a.m. So thank you.
Sorry.
Okay,
I'm
I have
probably
Councillor
confused.
Gesselbrecht.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I probably confused the issue by giving that reference to the construction section. The motion that's on the floor, the motion that's being debated by council, is in relation to lawn grooming and garden equipment. Now, there was a comment by one member of council about construction, but that is further into the bylaw. So I think you may want to proceed with the motion that's on the floor and the other motion that was on the agenda. And then if council wishes to consider other amendments, that's up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Director Coates. I believe that it was brought up in debate as a comparison. That is it. We'll deal with that when the time is appropriate. Councillor Gesselbrecht.
Yeah, I had a point of order. Basically, what Director Coates had to say. We're not talking about, construction. Let's stick to this one right here. If we want to go off on a wild goose chase on another one, we can do it later. So I'm going to ask that you call the question.
Well, Councillor Gesselbrecht, yeah, your point of order is noted. I believe the debate is in order. We are talking about noise, and it was a comparable noise. One just happens to come from lawn equipment. Other stuff comes from construction noise. So
the motion is look at the motion.
I understand what the motion is,
done.
Councillor Gesselbrecht. Okay, so unless there's any further debate specifically about this motion, I will call the question. Okay, so there's no further debate, and as long as everybody's clear, it's just increasing that to 8 a.m. Okay, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Knowing that Councillor Savage is opposed, the motion carries. Okay, so okay, Councillor Wilson, you got another one there?
Good neighbor bylaw number 200, 2021 be amended in definitions, special event permit by striking approved by council and inserting approved by the director of corporate administration.
Okay, and do we have a seconder to that? Okay, second by Councillor Gesselbrecht. Discussion on this motion. Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Gesselbrecht.
Yeah, just in the spirit of not getting into the weeds on things, I don't think this is something that should be coming to council every time there's a special event. So yeah, I think that our Our Director of Corporate Administration is perfectly capable, and I'm sure that we'll be advised of all special event permits that are, I'm sure that'll be in our council, in reports to council. So I think that we don't need to be getting into the weeds on something like that.
Okay, Councillor Gusselbrook.
I agree.
Okay, and through the Director Coates, I see that your hand was up.
Yes, I just want to confirm for the minutes that the motion on the floor is the one that's in the agenda. It had 2 bullets, 2 references to definitions, 1 special event permit by making an amendment to it, and then 1 definitions by adding a definition for Director of Corporate Administration.
Okay, so just through the council, just by unanimous consent, any objections to just, again, lumping in the reference that Director Coates just made? Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody opposed, so we'll just assume that both those bullets are on the floor. Okay. Any additional speakers on this item? Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I think we should keep approval by council. Special permits do not happen often, and it could save problems. Residents have a right to know about a special events permit, which might affect them, and a right to give input. So cutting out this process is less democratic. It's just quietly done, and residents find out later that some special permit thing's been granted that they would be opposed to. So anytime it can be democratic and allow public input is good. And as I say, if this was done all the time and was a bothersome thing and just for housekeeping purposes, just let staff handle it, that's one thing, but it sure doesn't come up often. It's just very occasional. And as I say, it just covers that chance that there might be something that bothers residents or groups of residents about it, and they have a right to speak to it before a decision is made. Thank you.
Okay, Director Coates, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear that although the title of my position is the one that's listed there, it would definitely be a team effort of the management team. The practice in other places that have it coming through staff is that there is a process. It gets referred around to staff to determine, what possible impacts there could be. In some cases, there's even a request that the applicant provide, letters of support from the neighborhood or anticipates issues that could be occurring. There's always a public notice provision so that there is notification given to those affected.
All right, any additional comments, feedback, questions, debate? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question then. All those in favor? And opposed? Only that Councillor Savage is opposed, carries. All right, so I'm going to propose an amendment then. So under item 24E, so I'm probably not going to get the wording correct because I'm doing this on the fly, that the Good Neighbor Bylaw number 200/2021 be amended in clause, make sure I got it right here, 24E, by striking 7 a.m. in hours of operation and inserting 8 a.m. That's the amendment. So do I have a seconder? Is that a seconder, Councillor Gusselbrook? Okay, second by Councillor Gusselbrook. Discussion on the motion. So I think we've already discussed this somewhat. This is just to bring this into consistency with the lawn operating or lawn equipment. I've already somewhat debated this in the previous motion. And I just think it makes sense. I find the noise from construction far more intrusive than the occasional noise that I may hear from neighbors mowing lawns, especially in the morning hours. The interesting part of this clause is that it does say on any day, so that individuals are permitted to do this on weekends. I do like what I, and I believe I've read it myself with respect to Qualicum and the 9 a.m. on weekends. But anyways, maybe you'll save that for another day. But I think this just brings this in line with the lawn grooming and garden equipment operating. So I think it's pretty straightforward. So Councillor Gesselbrecht is a seconder.
Yeah, if this passes, then I suggest that staff make an effort to let the construction industry, specifically up on Spence's Way and any other area that construction's going on, that there is a new bylaw. Because I know that from my experience that workers get there early, they're collecting their tools, they're getting everything ready, but that's not noise. However, if somebody's bringing a machine in, they better know about this. So I see, there'll be some confusion out there, maybe some angry words, unless we are proactive and let them know that there's a change. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor, I think it was Councillor Proctor. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a question. If you could give me the reference in the bylaw again, I'm having trouble finding it.
24E, and it's on page 27 of our agenda.
Thank you.
And it just as a bit of a follow-up, I know it was mentioned in a previous debate, just with respect to the noise and so on, with respect to construction, people can show up to their work sites earlier. It's just they're not permitted to make noise until the designated time. So to me, this seems very reasonable. They can do their site prep, get everything else out, but it's just, we're not going to be running skill saws and chop saws and heavy duty equipment. I think it's very fair. So through Councillor Wilson, and I see Councillor Proctor as a hand up again.
I can support this because it does, alluding to what Councillor Savage said earlier, it brings some consistency. You answered my question that I was going to ask with respect to like skill saws and firing up heavy duty equipment. So yeah, I can definitely support this, and I think it's a good amendment.
Additional speakers, so Councillor Proctor.
I think it's a good amendment. I wouldn't want to hear the beep, beep, beep at 7 o'clock in the morning. But I just have a question through you to staff. I'm wondering how this correlates with, if surrounding municipalities limit construction noise starting not until 8. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on how this might be detrimental to the construction industry, or if it might be.
Yes, and if I had my stack of bylaws up here with me, I could flip through and look at those. Because there was a specific reference to Qualicum Beach, I did pull that up online. And Qualicum Beach prohibits construction noise before 7 a.m. and after 8 p.m. But then it has a special rule for Sunday and general holidays of 9 a.m. and after 6 p.m. Now, I will comment on that because, of course, we did have a previous discussion about this, that it's viewed as a bit archaic to have noise bylaws that reference days of worship or weekends. Our society these days, there are people who don't work Monday to Friday. There's people who don't worship on Sunday. So we don't encourage having that in bylaws. So I think you've proposed a good compromise. There's always still, as referenced in section 24E, the ability for a contractor to go to the director of planning to talk about an exemption if there was some special circumstance. It has very specific criteria as well, I've mentioned. That's on page 29.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's interesting with my line of work. I interview workers all the time about, their job demands and work hours and such. And it seems that a lot of the trades and construction workers out there are starting to get what you'd call banker's hours. A lot of them are going to work at 8 a.m. in the morning and off at 4. could be even 8:30, 4:30. They're not working long hours, long days. Sure, there might be the crunch to get a project completed, and there may be hours more or less at the end of the day. But the interesting thing is these early mornings. From my experience, anyways, interviewing workers, I don't hear about it as much. So some guys, will show up to work early in the morning, or tradespeople will show up to work early in the morning and try and get things done. But I think this is a fair compromise, and it's about the peace and quality, and like it says in our bylaw, we don't want to be disturbing the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, convenience of any persons in the neighborhood or vicinity. As far as I'm concerned, if I got a beep, beep, beep going off at 7 a.m. in the morning, which I do have in my neighborhood, it's, I think, almost stopped. It's annoying. I put up with it, but again, it's annoying, and maybe my threshold for annoyance is much higher than others. I don't know. I haven't surveyed people on that, but I think, I think people are looking for the rest and peace and enjoyment of their properties. Director Coates, I see your hand back up again.
Yes, on the comment about construction and what time they start, what time they end. I think that's why it's important that every bylaw is written specific for that municipality. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't acknowledge that we've had a very unusual summer. It's been extremely hot in other communities around the province where they frequently have high heat. Their construction work days generally start earlier in the summer because of that issue of the heat, and as well, the hazards that are around when it is much hotter. But again, I think it's reasonable what you're putting forward. There is the ability under 27H if circumstances arise that warrant it, and for an exemption. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Unless there's Councillor Savage, I was going to say, unless there's further debate, I will call the question, but go ahead.
Yep. Thank you. And just to answer your question, yes, you do have a higher tolerance than others for being disturbed and irritated. So congratulations. So the clause in 24E that allows the flexibility is simply this. It says causes noise or sounds in or on any property, a highway, or elsewhere in the district which disturbs the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, or convenience of any person or persons in the neighborhood or vicinity. So that allows them to do quiet work. There's nothing preventing them there because it doesn't disturb others, hopefully. And it also means that if you're far away, like in a distant section of the foothills where you're not bothering anyone, then maybe it is fine to start machinery earlier than that. So that's kind of the thing. And I would point that out, please, to construction workers with this, because I don't want them feeling that suddenly they're shut down before 8. It's just disturbing neighbors is that's the line drawn. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move to calling the question unless there's new information. Okay, I'm going to call the question. So all those in favor, opposed. Okay, that looks like it's carried unanimously. All right, so that oops, I flipped around here. So that takes us to the next item with that the District of Lantzville.
There's a motion before that.
Sorry, which one are you referring to, Councillor Gusselberg?
There's a motion that the District of Lantzville Good Neighbor Bylaw.
Yes, that's the one I was
200
referring to. So if you're prepared to make that motion, go right ahead.
Thank you. The District of Lantzville Good Neighbor Bylaw number 200, 2021 be given third reading as amended by the previous motions.
Okay. Do I hear to that? Okay, second by Councillor Proctor. So it's at third reading. So discussion on the Good Neighbor Bylaw, third reading. So Councillor Gusselbrecht, since you made the motion, and then Councillor Proctor is the seconder.
Yeah, thank you. There's been great discussion on this bylaw. I forget exactly when it came before council, but it's been debated many times. And I think with everybody's thoughts and amendments, that it's a good starting point for the community. Like any bylaw, we try it out, write it around for a while. If there's problems, we can amend it. But I firmly believe that like walls or good, fences make good neighbors. Good bylaws make good neighbors as well, because you give the neighbor that is feeling aggrieved by his inconsiderate neighbor on the other side, you give that neighbor some recourse that instead of, starting a Hatfield and McCoy sort of relationship, which, they go on for years, you can ask the district and they send out a bylaw officer who can sit down with both parties and see what resolution there can be. Sometimes there can't be and a ticket's issued. But I'm confident that this bylaw will stand the test of time, and I'm in favor of moving ahead with it.
Okay, Councilor Proctor is the seconder. Okay, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the council. Again, we're at third reading. So Councilor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, I won't be supporting it. And here's why. The way I would have done it is to involve residents from the start and have them tell me what they feel is needed in terms of more rules, regulations, bylaws, and so on. And once you have that, I would start with the ones where there seemed to be general consensus and start small, and then building up from there and add a bylaw at a time when something necessary arrives. That's building your bylaw around the actual reality of a community, fitting it into the circumstances or the history of that community. That's how I would have liked to have done it, but I've heard from innumerable people, and people have written in. I think we got over 100, 105 submissions, mostly opposed to various things in the Good Neighbor bylaw. And just to give you one example, it has been a tradition in Lantzville, we all look after, because of our pride in our properties, all the way to the road allowance. And a decent section of that is public land, yet people freely and gladly maintain that land. I've even seen people in ditches cleaning them out just for good appearance in front of their property. It's called pride in your property, community pride. It's never been a problem. And if it ever is a problem, they'll phone the district and say, I can't manage this, and it's done on a cooperative basis. Now suddenly we've got something that mandates them, they have to do it. And that's completely different way of doing it. It's a different disposition, a different concept, and it's just totally unnecessary. As well, case law shows that this has not stood up in court before. One case, I believe, was in Summerland, where someone was trying to sue a hotel because they hadn't cleared a sidewalk from ice and snow in front of their place. They did not prevail in their suit against the hotel because it was decided you can't force a property to maintain someone else's property being district property. So perhaps the bylaw fine would prevail because that's a local bylaw. But in terms, if you took it to court, it appears it would not. And there's other case law on that too. So I think it's an overreach. I think it's heavy-handed. It's completely unnecessary. That most of how Lantzville's operated over the years has been on a cooperative basis and neighborly basis. And where this becomes necessary, these types of bylaws, is where you place people so close together, especially in these tiny lots with enormous houses that are springing up everywhere. It creates stress and conflict, parking problems, dog problems, because you're living in such proximity. This is when these bylaws spring up. So you have to deal with all this, but Lantzville's never been like that. So I think each community is different, and for me, Lantzville's never been a place heavy on bylaws and so on. We've generally just done what we want over the years, and yet I haven't seen any great problems with doing it that way. We generally get along, see each other at schools when our kids are young and so on. So I think we're losing part of that with this bylaw. And I'm just not going to support something that I don't believe most residents support, and I don't believe in myself. So that's why I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Director Coates, I see your hand is up.
Yes, and just through to council on that reference to the District of Summerland in that case, I'd be remiss if I didn't clarify that the information that was reported was not complete. The 2018 Scheck case would not apply in our circumstance. The issue with the Scheck case was that the sidewalk policy of that local government of the District of Summerland conflicted with its bylaw. We have had our bylaw reviewed by lawyers, and we received that advice also from the Municipal Insurance Association, provided them with our enforcement sections within the bylaw, and they advised that we would not have a problem like the Summerland case. That's just a different set of facts.
Okay. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not confident enough I would ever make a statement like that we wouldn't have a problem. Case law is decided by two lawyers stating different things. One prevails, the other doesn't. And over time, the case law molds a fairly predictable thing. In that Summerland case and other cases I've read, there have been many references to this. And at best, it's an iffy proposition. So I'm not guaranteeing it wouldn't be successful. I wouldn't guarantee it would be. I'm saying it's iffy. There's enough case law to show that it's gone different ways, and it depends on the circumstance. But why even go there where it could be challenged and possibly prevail in challenging it? I just find it highly peculiar that if you took a senior to court that was 90 years old, a single woman, and for not maintaining property that was district property, I find it highly unlikely that would prevail. I would find that so unreasonable that, so that's what I'm saying. Why even go there with trying to mandate these things that are, as I say, controversial and iffy? So that's my point. Thank you.
Yeah. And in terms of that, the case law, I don't know if Director Coates, I'm not totally familiar with that, except for the references that are being made. So I don't know if it's possible for staff just to forward that on to council, just so we all have that same information.
As it does provide legal advice, I could put it on the next in camera, yes.
Well, I guess we could do that as well, sure. But in terms of the reference to that bit of case law, I don't know if you have that readily available to forward on to council. Anyways, I see Councillor Gusselbrecht, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Well, needless to say, I have a different view of this bylaw than Councillor Savage. 90% of this bylaw is taken from existing bylaws. The opposition that we got initially was generally and overwhelmingly with respect to the bylaw regarding the beaches and when you can be on the beaches. And council debated that, council looked at it, and we came up with, I think, was a very good compromise and explained what that meant so that people didn't feel that there was going to be bullards and armed guards at the beaches, at a certain time in the evening. Community pride, yes. We have a lot of it here in Lantzville. We have a lot of people who look after their right of way, but the bylaw is there for those who don't. The bylaw is there for those individuals who allow their trees and vines and bushes to crowd not only the street signs so that you can't see them and stop signs, but also provide obstructions, safety issues. That's where the bylaw is there. I don't know, I guess I live on one of those tiny lots, but my house isn't big, but I don't see tiny lots with big houses springing up all over Lantzville. Councillor Savage must be speaking of some other jurisdiction, perhaps Nanaimo. I don't see any problem on Landcrest Terrace, whose lots down there are less than a quarter of an acre. I don't see the neighbors fighting out in the streets over the nearness of their roof lines or their houses. In fact, the biggest problem in Lantzville many years ago was a dispute between two neighbors who each lived on 2.5 acres. That was a huge dispute. So I don't agree that we've got a big problem coming up that's going to be exacerbated by construction and development. We're talking quarter acre. That's a lot of land. I think this good neighbor bylaw and the goodwill, the community pride here in Lantzville will see us through all of that. Thank you.
Okay, additional debate on this? Third reading? Okay, I'll take a stab at this. Yes, you know, we've spent a considerable amount of time on this. I know staff has spent a lot of time on this. I guess I do have one question through to staff. I'm assuming that because I haven't seen it, and I don't think any other members of council have seen anything, but did we have any correspondence back from Sunanawas? Chief and council?
We do not.
Okay. That's a quick answer. Thank you. So in terms of the bylaw itself, you know, again, we've kind of gone through this in considerable amount. There's a couple issues I'm still on the fence with, you know, and that really is around the beach and being down on the beach. And I know we've tried to reach some compromise on that. But the problem I have is just because we have the authority to regulate what goes on the beach doesn't necessarily mean we should exercise that authority. And that's the problem I really have with it. So, you know, I know there's been lots of discussion out there and it, you know, it is from what I understand, it's a fact that we have the ability as a municipality to regulate what goes on the beach. And that goes, I believe, is it 100 meters out into the Sailor's Sea? Is that correct? And the ocean floor, just through the staff, is 100 meters?
I believe it is.
Yeah, I think it's, I just don't want to misquote anything. So yeah, I believe it's 100 meters to ocean floor. So, you know, people can't, you know, basically anchor off or if we wanted to, we could start regulating that, the anchoring of vessels off the, you know, shores of Lantzville. If that's really where we want to go, or regulating rafts and stuff. But so that's where I'm a little bit hung up, and you know, I'll likely support this third reading moving forward, and hopefully I can reconcile, you know, my differences on it. But again, that's the huge issue I have. You know, again, I think we've made some pretty good compromises as a council, taking into consideration feedback of the community, moving this one forward. You know, future councils can basically revamp this at will. If this, you know, we've got just over a year to go in this term. So if there's any big problems with it within that year, we can look at making amendments to the bylaw. But those are just my thoughts at third reading, and through to the rest of the council. I don't know if there's any further debate. Councillor Desperate, you still get your hand up there. I don't know if you had anything to follow up on. No. Okay. And goes, well, I know those things are tricky. Okay, unless there's anything further, I'm going to move to call in questions. So third reading. So all those in favor of third reading and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, the third reading carries. That takes us on to bylaw 262. So this is under item C, that the district, I'll just make the motion myself, that the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan bylaw number 150, 2019 amendment, open bracket, regional context statement and service areas, close bracket, bylaw number 262, 2021 be given first and second reading, and further that District of Lantzville Official Community Plan bylaw number 150, 2019 amendment, open bracket, regional context statement, service areas, close bracket, bylaw number 262, 2021 is consistent with the District of Lantzville financial plan and the relevant waste management plans. So is there a seconder to that? Okay, second by Councilor Proctor. Discussion on the bylaw. Just before we get into that, just through to staff. I see Director Coates, you got your hand up. So is there any background information from staff to supplement what we have in their agenda?
I simply wanted to have it on the record that council was provided with a corrected copy of the bylaw today. You have a green page. It's up on the website. It was emailed out. The change on it was changing the, if you have your old agenda in front of you, the original clause C was deleted.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Through to council. So I think Councilor Proctor, you seconded it. So I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add before I open it up to the rest of council. So through to council, any questions, debate? So through to Councilor Savage.
Yes, through the staff, please. What will this change facilitate that can't be facilitated now?
Your worship, through you to Councillor Savage, what the amendment actually does is takes out the water and sewer service areas. Council as a whole has discussed water and sewer that should be provided to the community. Rather than having service areas, it's up to council to decide if they're going to provide water, or if somebody approaches council, if they're going to provide water or sewer within that area. So it just takes out the service areas, which actually the Director of Public Works has the authority to change at any rate.
And that's the only difference?
That's correct.
Okay, through to council.
So, yeah, if I could follow up, please. I was just,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Savage.
So, yes, I won't be supporting this. I really don't understand the reason for it. I read the staff report carefully. I saw the proposed changes, but I don't understand what it would allow or not allow, and I don't know when we'd find that out. I don't want to find out later it caused something. I don't know why we're getting an amendment now after a couple of years of the OCP. I don't know why this would take precedent over other OCP changes. I dare say the public or council would find more pressing. I just don't understand the modus operandi of this. And many of the changes made to the OCP in 2019 turned out not to mean what I understood them to mean. So I'm not interested in any change to the OCP whatsoever, unless I'm absolutely have a comprehensive understanding of exactly what it means, what it implies, what it might mean in the future. And I just don't understand this. So any changes I would like to see in the OCP to restore some of what residents want. And also it's been almost a year, council made the motion to change, well, it was just a motion. There's motions on the table that council made that haven't been facilitated yet. So I would like to see those done first, rather than, you know, a motion that seems quite out of the blue, quite arbitrary. So I won't be supporting it. I would have far more higher priority things to change in the OCP than this. And I absolutely don't understand the reason for it. after over 2 years, we've lived with it. I'm not aware it's caused any problems as it was. And now suddenly we're changing it again. It makes me wonder why, what's upcoming, the change is needed for this. So I won't be supporting it for all those reasons. Thank you.
Okay, so I have Councillor Gusbrook next, and then if there's any additional speakers, we'll continue on.
Yeah, I've gone through the staff report, and it seems to me it's fairly straightforward because of the three changes. The first two are housekeeping. The first one is that we basically repeated one of the what do you call it? One of the regional growth strategy, and that's on page 42. The correct regional growth strategy goal listed in amendment bylaw was taken from an earlier version of the OCP. So when you look at the chart here, it shows that we just repeated it. So we're taking one out. The second one has to do with inconsistency between the text of the RDN's regional growth strategy, which we have incorporated into our OCP. We are part of the RDN. It's an inconsistency between that and the growth containment boundary in the OCP. And so it's just trying to rationalize those two areas. And the third one, I believe, is the one that CAO Campbell mentioned. And to me, that amendment is basically saying anybody that wants water and can get a pipe to you, we'll give it to them. And of course, if they can pay for it, instead of having these separate little water areas. So to me, that's being inclusive. It seems to me that most people in Lantzville want to have water. Those that don't have it now want to have it. The issue has always been, how much does it cost and how long will it take to get there? So I think what we're doing is really implementing the master water plan, which was spoken about in the official community plan. So at this stage anyway, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't want to move ahead with this. And of course, there's going to be public engagement. And of course, there's going to be time for all of us to ask questions to see, what the effect is. So at this point, I agree with this motion.
Okay, additional speakers? For myself, I'm curious about the time sensitivity. I don't know how quickly we need to move on this item. And as Councillor Savage has indicated, any kind of downstream implications of this. So, at this point, I'm not totally fully understanding of the required changes. I think I have a reasonable understanding, but maybe I need to look at it more closely. I'm not totally sure. We do, council has considered, and it's in our strategic planning session, that, looking at doing an OCP review in 2023 to reconcile a lot of the differences of opinion on the OCP in itself, like in its current form. At that point, that would make sense. Whether it's a minor or major revision, I guess that's yet to be determined. But I do think, we're going to be looking at the OCP in the near future anyways, and to reconcile those differences and look at that process. And I think part of that whole issue anyways was because of the length of time between the 2005 OCP and the 2019. So it's quite a span. So we're going to probably look at refining it and so forth. But so in terms of time sensitivity, just through this staff, like how urgent is this? Is this where we should be focusing our attention on as a municipality? Is this where we should be putting our resources right now? Is it resource intensive, like moving this forward? I guess those are questions.
Through your worship, it's not time sensitive at all.
Okay. And then in terms of time sensitivity, like, is there a reason why we need to move this forward now, or not that it sounds like a lot of work to do anyways, but.
No, Your Worship. As Councillor Gazabraka said, it's just a couple of corrections, and then taking the water and sewer maps out of the OCP. You'll probably remember, particularly with sewer, it's a specified area within in the OCP right now, and that had to be amended by the Director of Public Works to accommodate Phase 3 sewer.
Yeah. Okay. Through the rest of the council, any additional questions, debate, in consideration of this motion? Councillor Savage?
Yes, in terms of inconsistency in the OCP, there's probably a long laundry list of things I could come up with. For example, in the section 5 of the OCP with the density averaging and density bonusing, it refers to a later part of the OCP that no longer exists. So there's language there that refers to something that doesn't exist. There's all sorts of things one could do as housekeeping issues. And again, my question is why now, why this, when there's so many other things one could do? So I'd rather see this presented instead of being an absolute one-off. There was some motion about protecting heron nests previous to now, and I believe that was supposed to be an OCP amendment. I haven't seen that anywhere. So why just this and not others? We may all have ideas what we'd like to see amended. So I'd like to see a process that's more logical, where we all have a chance to give input. If there's going to be an amendment process, do it all at once. And also, as I say, that heron issue, I don't know what happened to it. I thought that was an OCP amendment that was supposed to be proposed. So, and too many unknowns for me. I just don't know what this could lead to or not. So anyway, I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Director Coates.
Yes. And Director Young sends his regrets. Couldn't be here to speak to this. I just wanted to add that, there seems to be some question of what's the reason? Is there an ulterior motive? How did this issue come up and how did it rise to the top? There's, when we receive legal advice on.
As a point of information, please.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, I really don't like my words mischaracterized that way. I never once said or even suggested there was an ulterior motive. Thank you.
Noted, Councillor Savage.
For clarity, though,
what I will say, Director Coates, I'm speaking. What I will say though is, I brought this up myself as well. It's just the time sensitivity. So, just I guess really what's brought this on. I guess that's the information I'm hearing, and I'm also curious about it too, considering there are other, I guess, potential OCP tweaks or amendments required in the future. So,
and sorry, that's what I was trying to get to speak to. I think council considered OCP and when those things would come forward. Their wholesale review was not going to come forward at this time. But when staff received legal advice in relation to things like the wording that's in here in relation to the sewer service, and it's important that we clarify it and that we correct it. So when we are currently working on the Phase 3 sewer service area, and if there's amendments to that area, the question had come up of whether there's an amendment to the OCP that's required, because that was the belief in the past. We had a legal review on that, and no, there was not. But certainly it became evident that there's wording that doesn't provide clarity if the staff themselves had to go get a legal advice on whether it requires an amendment. And so that's where I think That's where it was initiated. That's how we ended up coming to the conclusion. And of course, the CAO has already spoken to the fact that it is in the norm in most places that that the utilities are available to the community, and so it should reflect the way that council wishes to move forward on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so yeah, I understand what you're saying. I've always wondered about that myself in terms of just, and I've had, I think CO Campbell, I've kind of discussed it as well, as just in terms of the water service delivery areas and so on. Why have it so broken up into different areas? Why not just look at it as just one utility and same thing with sewers, one utility. If we can extend the line, whatever direction, and it makes sense, and we have the funding for it, whether it's through the district or through basically developer, well, then let's not just limit ourselves to what's, the painted lines around the box, so to speak. So I understand that part. I have just, like I said, it's just more the timing of why this has come about. That's really one of my kind of questions. Additional speakers on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move to calling the question then. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, that's carried. So that is just first and second reading. Yeah, so it's going to come back to us. All right, so bylaw number 273.
Point of privilege.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Proctor.
I would like a 5-minute break, please.
Okay, so break is being requested. So I'm just noting the time. I'm trying to figure out, I'll go off my computer. So the time's 8:16, so we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Is that plenty of time? 5 minutes or, okay. So 8:21 we'll reconvene. Okay, the time is 8:21. I don't know if people can hear me. If you can turn back on your screens. Okay, just waiting for Councillor Proctor.
Sorry.
Okay, so we are on to calling back to order this meeting of council. So we're on to bylaw number 273. So this is item D. Someone prepared to make this motion. Okay, I'll just make it then that the District of Lantzville miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw number 26-2004 amendment, open bracket business license, close bracket bylaw number 273/2021 be adopted. So again, it's just adoption. So then, sorry, do we have a seconder? So second by Councillor Gusselbrack. Okay, so we'll just move to call in questions. So all those in favor and opposed, and noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, that bylaw is adopted. All right, so brings us on to bylaw number 278. So we have that, I'll just make the motion that the District of Lantzville Council Procedure Bylaw number 141/2020 amendment, open bracket, electronic meetings, close bracket, bylaw number 278/2021 be given first, second, and third readings. So do we have a seconder to that? Because we'll take those three motions separately. So seconded by Councillor Gusselbrack. So discussion on the motion. And through to staff, is there anything in terms of a verbal report or update on this item?
No, I'm happy to respond to any questions. I think we have two reports on this agenda about the circumstance we're currently in with the new legislation taking effect on the 29th, and that you were limited to the starting after the 28th of September, you're limited to what's in the current procedure bylaw, but no longer be able to have Zoom meetings with all of council until council considers the legislation that comes into effect on the 29th. So this is like a compromise position. The most we could get approval for was to have Zoom meetings for 4 members of council. And so this procedure bylaw moving ahead would allow you to still have 4 of you Zoom in. The chair would still be in person, and that we anticipate would be taking effect after the electronic meetings options under the emergency orders end on the 28th.
Okay, thank you for that. And so is there any questions on the first motion there? So the first 3 readings. Sorry, Councillor Gusselbrack, you seconded that one, right? It's already become a long meeting. So did you have anything to add or any questions? Councillor Savage, you have your hand up next. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, thank you. Through the chair to Director Coates, he's done a great job, really, with this complicated situation with Zoom meetings and all the COVID stuff. It's been really difficult, stick handling. So we've got these 3 items, and then another item later in the agenda. Is there a point where you could just give us a summary of where we are and what your suggestions would be, what the options are for all these things we're dealing with tonight? Or is it best to just comment on each motion as we go along? If I could ask that, please.
I'm happy to do whatever council would like. I think it's a complex issue, and I know the top clock is ticking. We're already at 8:25, and you still have a substantial agenda. I can certainly explain these. Well, I shouldn't speak to the other 2 motions. You have 1 motion on the floor about the 3 readings. I think I've spoken about what the purpose is. The process is, if council gives it 3 readings, we have a notice ready to go to the newspaper to do our statutory notice, which is required to publish for 2 weeks. And then you'll see then one of the next motions, or the next motion is to schedule a special meeting for the 27th of September to allow for an electronic meeting to consider adoption of the bylaw. If we didn't bring that forward for it at a special meeting on the 27th, then we would have to bring everybody back into the room. And I realize there's some discomfort with that, given our current numbers. I mean, in the region for COVID. And so I think this is a good option for council to consider the 3 readings now, and then you can go to the next motion after that and consider a special meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So at some point then we'll get down to the bottom line of how we decide to go forward with meetings, be it some in the council hall, and then 1 or 2 or 1 who chooses to stay at home on Zoom. Is that the idea? And when will we?
That's the discussion for the next report. And it comes up under item 12E.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll certainly support this. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments, debate on this first motion? Okay, hearing none, I will move to call in question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. So the next one, that council amends the 2021 council meeting schedule to add a special council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. on Monday, September 27th, 2021, electronically and in the council chamber for those members who wish to attend in person for consideration of adoption of District of Lantzville Procedure Bylaw number 141, 2020, amendment, open bracket, electronic meetings, close bracket, bylaw number 278, 2021. There's a seconder to that, second by Councillor Gesselbruck. Discussion on this one. For myself, this is interesting. You know, COVID's a tricky animal, that's for sure, to deal with, and it's been a complex issue, and around the issues of vaccination and all that stuff. Not that I want to get into debate on that, but I know personally, you know, I'm trying to do whatever I can to mitigate the unnecessary transmission through myself of the COVID virus to others. So it's kind of a weird one, because as the chair, I have to be in attendance, whereas as members of council, you don't have to be. And what I would encourage council to do is not be in attendance in council chambers, because it is a small venue, and to stay home and participate remotely, because it impedes on my ability to stay, you know, keep myself safe and not transmit the virus to other people. So it's kind of a weird one, but weird request as well. But again, you know, this is the times we live in. It's complex. Dealing with COVID has not been fun. I'm sure it's been an administration nightmare for Director Coates and Deputy Richardson. So it's not been fun. But anyways, those are just my preliminary thoughts. To the seconder, any questions, comments, debate? Through the rest of the council? Okay, hearing none, I will move to call in the question then. So all those in favor, opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to the last one, that the 2021 to 2024 financial plan be amended to include a $90,000 capital budget provision for electronic meetings equipment upgrade to be funded from the COVID-19 Restart Grant. Do I have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Gesselbruck. Speaking to this one, I guess this is unfortunately one of the positives of COVID, is that we've come into some money to do some much needed upgrades to our system for dealing with meetings, or audiovisual system. So whether that's live streaming to recording the meetings and so forth, and being able to do these Zoom meetings. So when we did the initial system, we didn't spend a whole lot of money, and because money is, as we all know, it is tight in Lantzville, and council of the day didn't want to spend a whole lot of money, and this is a system we're currently dealing with, and have been or staff has been putting band-aids on all the way through. But this is the time now to do a substantial upgrade to our system. The funds are there. You know, they do qualify. So I'm in full support of this, because I know it's been a headache for staff. We don't have any designated staff to just operate the system. So we have to have a system which is efficient and easy to use, so it can be used by our limited number of staff bodies that are present for our council meetings. Other than that, through to the seconder, I don't know if there's any additional information, debate.
Just simply echo what you said about staff. They've done an amazing job keeping this boat afloat. Secondly, it's difficult to be a chair in these circumstances when you've got to look down at a screen to see who's got their hand up or doesn't have their hand up or is unmuted. So hopefully with this new system, that will make it easier for the chair and for the rest of us in communicating. And thirdly, this whole series of motions is to, A, as you said, protect the spread of COVID and its many variants, and B, give those members of council an option if they don't want to appear personally, they can stay at home and Zoom. So I think it's a win-win for all, and I'll certainly support it.
Any additional comments, debate, Councillor Savage?
Yes, aside from being gobsmacked at the price here, $90,000, holy cow, may I inquire if this could include some audio visual equipment, which I don't believe would be that much, for such circumstances if we have public hearings in the future in Coston Hall or the Legion. And the reason how this relates to COVID is that even if they're small public hearings, the more spread out and the bigger space you're in, the better it is. So is that possible to include that? And then after that, if we could please get kind of a summary of what this $90,000 is buying. Thank you.
Yes, and all of those things have been discussed and considered, and we've received lots of advice on it, and we've talked to our peers to see what they're doing in other places. One of the challenges, and it seems like a simple suggestion, have a portable system and set it up at the Legion or set it up at Coston. That's not a realistic option for the systems, the technology that we're working with today. What we're working, this is more of a discussion that was going to happen with the next report, but I'm going there a little bit just to explain that that this does not include it. This budget. This budget is to improve the system within Municipal Hall. The advice that we have received is that for us to set up in Coston Hall would require us to change the lease, have it become a municipal building and wire the system in, or at least take back 1/3 of the space and make it so that there's a wired in system. Because we're talking about not just making a recording that we broadcast and add to the website the next day, which is what we have done for public meetings, and you're all aware of that. In prior years, pre-COVID, we've paid to have somebody come in and do a recording and then put it up on the website. What the legislation is looking at, and what we're trying to be flexible on, is the ability for us, because we have certainly, and I appreciate your recognition of staff. I'm very proud of the fact that we have been able to live stream. We have been able to do hybrid meetings, maybe not as successfully as we would like, but those are not features. We would not be able to live stream. We would not be able to use our iCompass system that's coming online this fall, operating on a portable system out of the Legion or Coston Hall. But not that all is lost. I mean, what the legislation is anticipating is that if you're having something and for whatever reason the public can't attend, then you're going to be required to have another room. another space that's going to be set up as though it's someone's living room and they were with their computer. So because the biggest complaint I think the province was hearing was that we being local government, are missing not allowing those people in our community who do not have computers, who do not have Zoom, who do not have the technology, to not participate in that way electronically. So that's what the best practice now is suggested, is that if council decides, when we go through in detail, when you review the options under the new legislation, if you decide that you want to have that ability to set up in Costin Hall, it would be set up like I don't want to say a dummy location, but it's a location where we would have the computer ability so that someone could come up to the microphone and it's like they're zooming in. So we'd have a Zoom terminal, like a dumb terminal. But the proviso in the legislation is there must be a corporate officer there managing that. And so that's where logistically the corporate officers in the corridor are still discussing, well, how are we going to do that? Because we're going to try to run a meeting here in the chambers, and we're going to have a pilot location in another location. So, but I've probably gone on about that enough. It's really the topic for discussion when you get into the discussion later on of what you're going to do with the new legislation, what you're going to choose to amend in the procedure bylaw. It's not for this procedure bylaw amendment because you can't consider that yet. And it's not, not a part of the 90,000. So I know it was a two-part question. The question was, what does the 90,000 include? Well, it includes a lot. There's a lot of enhancements. I put some bullets there just on page 58 of the agenda, that it's going to enhance the participation of elected officials and the public. One of the complaints we heard when we were doing hybrid before was that there seemed to be this choice of the cameras either pointing at the one person in the council chamber, or two or three, however many there are, or we're broadcasting the live stream with the Zoom boxes, with Zoom participants. What we're looking for is a double system where it will be showing to the public in the live stream both views. So I think that's a big improvement. Hopefully it'll assist too for the chair. The other big complaint we keep hearing, I was going to say from hybrid meetings, but even from some of our straight Zoom meetings, is the audio feedback when there's staff in the chambers and you're on Zoom. So what we've been doing to alleviate that is we've been using your wired microphones. But as soon as some of you come back into the room, those aren't going to be available to us. So that's another feature that we've explained to them that's a problem, and we're looking for equipment to improve that. The real improvement for us, and I know it's not as visible to the public or even to council, but is to streamline the operation. When we have the public back in here and they take a look at what we're doing, we have 4 or 5 monitors on the go, and we're having to let people in now. We're doing the work that in other local governments that we've talked to, they have an IT staff person there. They have a Zoom moderator there. Then they have some other clerical staff that are actually doing the minutes. And so we're trying to do it all. And, granted, we're probably not hitting the mark all the time, but we're doing our best. So what they've promised us is a kind of a panel where we'll have a choice of the different types of meetings, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's an in-council, and then we would be flicking the switch and making that choice at that type of meeting. And the public's probably not even aware, but when we're doing closed meetings at the beginning, it's a totally different, separate meeting. And then we're having to quickly turn it around and go into the next meeting, which is a different type of meeting. Another major improvement is on the sound system and that it would be wired to the microphones. So when the speaker is speaking, the mic is on them. And when it changes to another speaker, then the mics on other people shut down. So you'll have less feedback issues. We've also discussed having the counter, the automated counter that a lot of council chambers have. So there's a light system. A big feature for us is we had early in the COVID challenges we've been facing, we decided to go with an electronic meeting management system. It's called iCompass. Some of you may be familiar with it. Other places have gone with eScribe, but it's a system where we can be doing our agendas, the minutes coming out of them. It will sync with our recording of the meetings. It will timestamp our meetings, which I know we've been asked about many times. So there's just many features. The other feature that comes with iCompass is it has a very robust record management for your website. And so it will give greater search capability to the public for people who are trying to find things on our website. So we're trying to balance all of these things, trying to improve as much as we can and get the biggest bang for the buck. So
yeah, well, that's terrific. That's why I mentioned you've been doing such a good job, far lower budget than other municipalities have, and you're not a specialist in AV tech stuff, and so it's just been remarkable. I've thought the job, and it's been so helpful behind the scenes to people like me as well, to keep me in the loop with the ability to participate and so on. So now, how about at least can we get with this 5 extra microphones? So if we're ever in a situation like we seem to be now and again at Costin Hall or the Legion, we can have 1 mic for staff, 1 for the speakers and the public, and then 1 each for council, for a total of 7. I just find it's a little inadequate the way we pass around mics and so on. Is that a possibility, just to include those? I don't know who owns the system. Is that just loaned by Costin Hall, those mics, when we're there?
yeah, yes, the system at Costin Hall is owned by the Society. The system at the Legion is owned by the Legion. I think that would be a phase 2. Our priority right now is to improve the council chamber. We certainly are looking at, as soon as council has made a decision about what options you want to pursue, then we can look at costing those things. And it's very important for us to get this order in as quickly as we can. In normal circumstances, the supplier that we're working with, it's usually a 30-day turnaround from date of order to installation and using it. The reality, the experience that's happening with COVID is not just due to the lack of supply on some things, but also due to the shortage of containers, shipping containers, and the new extreme cost of shipping containers. Some of that stuff is taking longer. So they'll try for 30 days. It could be longer. They do their best, but I know they've given us the example of a elementary school in the South Island that's opening, a new school that's opening without a sound system. And picture that in an elementary school with no sound system. So because things were delayed, it's going to be a few weeks before they get that installed. But yeah, so we would like to get this, that's why we brought it to council. We'd like to get it approved and get the order in tomorrow.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. Very clear update. Clear now as much as I'm stunned by the price. It really, I don't think we have any choice but to support this. It's necessary to carry on, and this may be more longer term than we think, needing this. And also we have to follow government regulations. You can't just wing it. So I'll certainly support this. Little disappointing it costs so much, but that's the way it is. Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? I did have one question through to staff, and it's, do you guys have a running tally of how much money has been spent to date on the system? Because I know that it's being brought up by Councillor Savage that it seems expensive, but it seems to me like, you know, over the years, we've spent considerable funds on the system we currently are dealing with that's substandard. Do you have a ballpark figure?
don't
Your
know
worship,
if
your worship, are you talking about the COVID grant money, or are you talking?
No,
about
I'm just the monies we've spent to date on our AV system.
Go ahead, Trudy.
No, I don't think it's, it would be accurate to describe it as money that's been spent on the current system. I believe there was this very early system that was installed, and I think staff ordered parts from here and parts from there and sort of put it together. And then there was an improvement budget that occurred just after CAO Campbell started. And I'm trying to remember what the budget was on that. I don't know if you recall CAO Campbell.
I don't recall, but it was over $10,000.
Yeah, I thought it was in the 10,000 range. And then, yeah, and then we haven't spent anything since then, other than we've had to have them come up and do some work on wiring and things not working. And so there's just like ongoing maintenance of, we would have complaints that why is there feedback? You know, why are we losing sound on this? And often the answer is you're trying to do things that this system is not designed for. So that's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely be voting in favor of this one, full support of this one for sure. So unless there's further debate from council, I'll be moving to calling the question. Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay. That takes us on to bylaw number 281. Someone prepared to make this motion? So Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
That the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180 2020 amendment 6935 Dickinson Road bylaw, and in brackets I should say, bylaw number 281, 2021 be given first and second reading.
And do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Proctor. Discussion on the motion. So go ahead, Councillor Wilson, and then Councillor Proctor.
I have nothing to add at this moment.
Okay, and then Councillor Proctor. Okay, and then through to the rest of the council. Okay, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I will passionately be not supporting this. The idea of the future study area was to create more interesting developments on the bigger properties within the future study area itself. Any density increase would give us more public green space, just like the OCP says. This is a chance to finally get some seniors-oriented housing, something I've wanted for so long now. But all this new one is being used for is complete urban sprawl, just endless amounts of houses on similar sized lots with zero public green space. This is, you know, it's just the most boring, unadvanced, below average use of this land you could possibly have. And I'm very passionate about proper design and nice neighborhood developments. And I don't consider this that at all. And it will have the lowest building standards allowed in BC. There's nothing proposed for this extra density of requiring higher green technology. So this is the absolute opposite of what the future study area intended. Now, Lantzville should be leading the province in innovation, green technology, beautiful neighborhood layouts and architecture. This one doesn't at all. Nothing's being required of it. for the density. What should go in here is seniors cottages clustered together to produce a good amount of public green space in the form of a greenway corridor, so we can finally start creating a trail system in Lantzville. Or a pocket neighborhood is another example of shared green space for social cohesion. I don't see why seniors-oriented cottages or a pocket neighborhood would need an OCP amendment. It states right in the OCP, this is a future study area. However, if a minor OCP amendment would be required for this, then it could be done as part of the part of the rezoning process, just twin it with that. Now, we need seniors-oriented housing, and we need it now. You can walk both to the village and Woodgrove from this location. The owner of this property has continually been publicly advocating for smaller homes and seniors-oriented homes. So here's our chance to do it. Lantzville should be a leader in trails, but instead we are throwing away opportunities. Over 7 acres Sabrina, 0 green space, 3.89 acre lot, 3.85 acre lot, Dickinson Road, Lot A, 0 green space. Now the OCP figures on page 90, the diagrams, and page 91 clearly show the idea is to increase density in order to acquire more green space. Each diagram shows increasing green space with increasing density. Why would the OCP waste 2 pages on this if it wasn't the intention? It's in section 8.5.4. OCP section 5.273, the district says the district may apply a bonus density in residential areas without amendment to this plan, where the development plan includes parkland acceptable to the district in addition to the 5% dedication required, and a community amenity contribution. That's identical to saying the student may go to the dance when he has done his homework and cleaned his room. What we're doing here is letting him go to the dance without cleaning his room after we've said he had to. So I'll leave it at that. I got a few more comments. I'll give others a chance to speak at it, but I'm begging you, please, to let's make this a special development. That's the whole idea of the future study area, not just more urban sprawl. Similar lot sizes, nothing but houses. And seniors have been waiting a long time for housing. Now's our chance. Thank you.
Additional speakers on this motion, first and second reading. Okay, I guess I'll speak next to it. I do have a couple questions. I guess too bad that Director Young's not here this evening, but I'm sure staff could probably weigh in a little bit. With respect to the future study area, like, do we have a estimated timeline when we're going to do this, or is this one of the cases that we need a motion of council to initiate that process? So that'd be through to staff.
Your worship, I can't answer that for you. I don't know if Trudy is able to or not. Director Coates?
I don't have anything to offer on that, sorry.
Okay. We had the adjacent property come before council, and yes, it got its rezoning to the R5 and so on. I'm not going to rehash my debate on that one, but one of the concerns is, when are we going to get this future study area done? Because I think the way we're going about this is, in my opinion, not the right way. We're just letting development happen unplanned. And, we have different property owners working or doing their own thing in a way and just getting the zoning, and who knows what's going to happen after that. So that's, one of my concerns. Director Coates, I see your hands up.
Yes, I was trying to take a quick look at the council motions and work list. And And I don't see anything there specific. But my understanding was, the comment's been made before, that the study area, it is a study, it is a review each time there's an application made and it is discussed. So this is a public process. It is a part of the study when the application is made, it goes through public comment, staff report. So that in a sense is, it's that it's not predetermined. It's something that requires a special application.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you. So, for myself, it's, I'd like to see this just be a bit more of a cleaner process in that sense that, it's outlined in OCP what the basically what should be going in that area, the type of housing and so forth, the lot sizes and so on, which is also based on, broader public consultation. I forget what I'm assuming, is it 100 meters for advertising on this for adjacent property owners that this is happening? Or what was the actual distance for notifying neighbors? Through to staff.
Sorry, I'd have to go to the bylaw and check that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but I suspect that very few people in that area would be notified that this application is even coming forward unless the applicant has taken it upon themselves to circulate flyers to the broader neighborhood and not just to the neighbors within a whatever 100 meters or whatever the number is. Again, what I'm driving at here is it's, with the OCP process, where it didn't include this area because we were looking at, and I believe it was communicated to the residents, or at least the people I spoke to, that yes, at some point in the future, we'd be looking at this and trying to plan it out. And I understand that every time we have an application, it's kind of like a mini version of that process. But I think we could be doing a better job on that and trying to bring more consensus, I suppose, to what we do in that area. So I guess the other question I had was just with the adjacent property that borders Shook. Has there been any, I don't know if there's been any communication with that property owner? Again, I'm just trying to understand, like, what is that area developing into? Because I think last time we had an application for that area, my concern is that, we were going to have a missed opportunity there. I don't know what should go there specifically, but the idea of having more seniors orientated homes in that area, smaller lot sizes, strata, whatever. I think that definitely fills a bit more of a void of the housing type we have in Lantzville. And within that neighborhood that will eventually develop more and more with Owen Road, there are other vacant properties in there and parcels. So what's that going to develop into? Are we just going to keep this, quarter acre thing going? Call it R5, or what are we doing? And to me, it just feels like we don't really have a plan, and having these come before us because we're not taking enough action as a council or as a municipality to deal with this future study area, it kind of troubles me. And like I said, do we need a motion of council to really jumpstart that process? Do we wait until the 2023 review if the council is going to be pushing ahead with that? Some of these are some of the questions I have. I also think, in fairness to the actual applicant, just because we're dragging our heels and getting things done with this future study area, should they suffer in the meantime? Not that it's suffering in the purest sense, but should we be holding that individual up as well? So these are just some of the things I'm ping-ponging around in my head, but that's just where I'm at this point. So Director Coates, I see your hand back up, and I've got Councillor Gusselbrecht to speak next.
Well, I did get into the website and had a look at the development procedure bylaw. It talks about notifications. We'll give notice of public hearing to owners and occupiers of parcels of land within 60 meters.
Okay, 60 meters.
But I should, you know, I should qualify that. Like we send the notice, but there's other notices we publish in the newspaper. You know,
Yeah, no, I
in the
understand. I
time
think
we
you,
publish
Director
in the-
Coates. Yeah, we got Councillor
And there's a sign
Gusselbrecht.
put on the property too.
Yeah, Councillor Gusselbrecht, go ahead.
Yeah, everyone that drives down Dickinson Road saw the 4-foot by 6-foot sign advertising this application. That's over and above any notifications that went in the paper or, of course, the district website. You know, the special plan area calls for each development to be reviewed when it's brought forward. So what we're doing is exactly what the OCP says. This is an application. Eventually, we're going to see what sort of design, what they have in mind. Council's going to have a chance to weigh in on it. Public's going to have a chance to weigh in on it. So we're doing what I think the OCP envisioned. These particular parcels, there are 3 parcels that are bounded by Lantzville Road, Shook Road, and what will be hopefully Owen Road, daylighting into Shook Road. And as the mayor mentioned, the 3rd parcel, which is bounded by Shook Road and Lantzville and Dickinson Road, hasn't been, we don't know what's going to happen there. You know, there are still personal property rights or property rights in Canada. People own property. Lantzville has a long history of development. You only have to read the history of Lantzville and see that the original grants were some 100 acres. We still have descendants of those early settlers. Those acreages were subdivided almost immediately to provide income for the families. And some of those descendants are, you know, living on 1/4 acre lots, whereas their great-great-grandparents had 100 acres. So development is natural. It's going on, and we're all going to get a look at it. And eventually, we're going to see some plans, and we're going to be able to weigh in on it. So I think we're going in the right direction. And once again, this is first and second readings. This gets us to buy into what's coming up, and you know, what the designs will be, what they're asking for. So I can support it.
Okay, and through to the rest of the council. Okay, any first-time speakers? Okay, hearing none, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I believe Director Coates is 100% correct. My thoughts on the future study area was exactly as she stated it, that each proposal within the future study area is taken as a separate entity. I've never understood this idea that there's going to be some overall plan for the future study area. I always thought it was taking one proposal, one property at a time. And the idea is the bigger properties, you do what you think is needed, you do innovative things, and you start the trail network. So if you start one here, then the next property that comes up, you ensure there's a trail there and so on. But the whole underlying principle of the OCP, I don't know why it's so difficult to, it's so easy for me to understand, is that you trade density for something. You don't just give it away. Our job is to represent the district, represent residents. It's not our job to represent well, it's our job to do that. Let's put it that way. So when I see density increase going from ½ acre to 0.237 acre, that's over double the density. We're supposed to be getting something in return if we're doing our job. And the OCP has nothing but references to green space in return for this extra density. In my mind, 3,000 for just 6 of the lots that are being created, I don't even consider that an amenity. So I want serious green space, serious amenities if we're going to be increasing the green space. What's more, the future study area is 10 hectares minimum lot size. So you're going from that up to the 0.237 acre lot. So whichever way you look at it. And just to finish off with what the OCP says, section 5.274 states a range of lot sizes in new subdivisions will be encouraged, where density bonusing, averaging, and clustering are supplied in residential areas. Outside the village and special plan areas, a target average lot size of 960 meters squared will be encouraged after dedication of public open space trail and road corridors. So 3 times public green spaces I've just mentioned stayed in the OCP. If it is going, if it's going to, it should happen. To offer 0 public green spaces just to ignore the OCP we spent so much money on. And density is being more than doubled. So we have every reason to ask for something in return. So that's my idea. The future study area is a chance for special things. People have been waiting forever for these seniors housing, and the residents own the zoning. So we have every right to require things if you're in a rezoning application. So I'll leave it till my next turn. Apparently my time's up. So.
Yes, it is. So yeah, through to council, I'm timing this. So holding your phone up, I understand Councillor Gusbrecht, you're trying to draw my attention, just simply call a point of order. I don't think it's really fair to the speaker to hold a timer up.
I'm trying not to interrupt the speaker. Okay,
Well,
that's why
yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, I understand. So again, just call a point of order if that's what you're so inclined to do. I was just about to intervene. I am tracking the times. Next speaker. So Councillor Proctor, you wish to speak?
I have a question through you to staff. If we wanted to increase the amenities per lot on this application, would this be the time we would do that? Or would we do that after we've given it first and second reading?
Your worship, you can do either.
So when we look at this proposal, if we decide that we would like staff to negotiate more per lot, we could do that before the public hearing, after the public hearing. Is there a timeline on that?
I would do it before the public hearing.
Before the public hearing.
Yep.
So will this come to, if this was first and second was passed tonight, would it come forward to us before the public hearing?
Director Cole.
Sorry, I was working on something else. What was the question?
If we wanted staff to negotiate more amenities per lot, when would the appropriate time be for us to do that?
Well, I think that is something you would have to give direction on now, so that staff could bring back a report to you before you take it for your public hearing.
That's exactly right.
So would I make that motion after we pass first and second reading, or would I make that motion now?
You can either do it now or after first and second reading. Because it doesn't go to public hearing, your worship, until third reading.
Right.
Just for clarity, I think the first and second motion is on the floor. So you
Yes.
want to dispose of that one and then go on to your next motion.
Okay.
You can make another motion that says, and not proceed to public hearing until X, Y, Z.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers on this item? I guess I'll speak to it next. So I stand corrected on my interpretation of the special planning areas. For me, my preference would be have an idea for the general area, but it looks like the way we have to do this is one area at a time or one application at a time. But again, I think it does beg the question, is this the right kind of development for that area? Like, in some ways, why not go with smaller lots and put some provisions on them that they can only, the lots themselves or the buildings, pardon me, the dwellings can only be of a certain size and can only be one story. I'd rather, again, like, why not create more variety? And this is the time to do it while we're in first and second reading. And then we can talk about amenities and all that sort of thing. But right now, all we're doing is applying is R5 zoning, and away you go. And, it doesn't really give much creativity down the road to where it can maybe go in that area. So, yeah, I have a hard time, again, supporting this simply because, my vision for that area, not saying that's the correct one, and that would get probably corrected through the public input process, is to have more variety of housing, have some seniors oriented housing, some patio homes. I think it'd be a fantastic area, given the fact that I live in the area. I think it'd lend itself quite nicely in that transition. It's right on the border in Nanaimo, and all those walking trails and dog, the off-leash dog park area. It's a wonderful thing. It's close proximity to, to walk to save on and other areas. It lends itself quite nice to that, I guess, retirement lifestyle. So those are my thoughts through to council. Any additional debate on this? Okay, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, my understanding of the correct procedure, if Councillor Proctor wants to make some suggestions and so on, is that we give a general direction. For example, if we want to see more seniors-oriented homes, we give that direction to staff, and we let them then implement it in conversation with the property owner. And then they bring it back for, once again, for approval at first and second reading. I have a bit of a problem with negotiating in public just with councillors stating we want exactly this many units and so on. I think the idea is to give the general direction, and I think it would be enough that we would like more seniors oriented housing, and let the that would mean, I agree with Mayor Swain, that would mean it's either strata title, so you have the homes more tightly clustered, small homes, be them, I call them cottages because I like that look of the small cottage. Seniors feel like they're still in a very small house, brings back memories of summer family time and so on. And if it's on a strata, then they can be tightly clustered. You can have a common area, which is very important for seniors, a common garden, maybe a little clubhouse where they can get together for dinners and so on. And then you're able to get some amenities like the green corridor or whatever amenities we decide. I know that on the last one, we got the amenity of a little traffic calming on Dickinson Road, but I dare say that's the appropriate process I would suggest, is to refer it back to staff with what you would like to see. It's just my idea, and you may have other ideas. I'd certainly welcome it. Just my idea.
So Councillor Savage, you're past your 2 minutes, so sorry to interrupt you. Through to council, or as Director Coates, to see your hands up there.
Yes, and certainly intention in responding, saying, it's something you could send back to staff. Now, the intention was not that council would have to formulate their community amenity contribution guidelines on the fly here at the meeting. You turned your mind to that last year. You approved a community amenity contributions document. It's several pages long. It has principles. It even talks about special planning area, the application, the process, and identifies the community amenity contributions. Has a list of potential contributions. Those were council's priorities at that time. I guess it's something if you wanted staff to bring that document back for your review, if you're thinking about changing it, because this is the document that guides staff, when they're meeting with developers, and it's a public document. It's on our website. So that's what the developers look at before they start a process. So rather than ad hoc, trying to rewrite the amenities here, I think it's something, you may want to send a message back to staff through a motion that you want staff to bring that back so you can review it, or I'm not quite sure. I guess I'm hearing two things. One was more to do with zoning than it was to do with amenities. So.
Okay, so through the council, what would council like to do? Councilor Proctor.
I just have a question through you to Director Coates. What was the name of the document that you were just referring to?
It's called the Community Amenity Contributions. It was approved by council June 15th, 2020. It's on our website, and I can send you the link. It's 5 pages long. The headings are principles, application and process, exemptions, timing and use of contributions, community amenity contributions, items that are not community amenity contributions, and then it has definitions.
Could I kindly ask you to send that out to all of us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the link right now. Thank you.
Then I don't have to search for it. I don't have anything further than that.
So through the council, really what's before us is we can refer this back to staff to discuss with the applicant, given some of the conversation and feedback given this evening, or we can proceed ahead and vote on first and second readings. But again, my understanding is this then will move us forward to a public hearing process. So then, then we have to then work backwards. So, before we get to the public hearing process, it's my preference to why not work all this stuff out ahead of time and present something that we think as a council would be in line with what the community would be willing to accept or embrace, maybe is a better word. And then we can, again, work out the details on that. So really, we're kind of at a crossroads with this one. We don't have to do anything, but I think the applicant is probably looking for some direction. And for myself, like, if we're talking about increasing the density further than that's requested, then the R5 is not going to do the trick for that. In fact, creating more lots will probably lead to more profit down the road, because it's not like, an eighth of an acre lot is that much less money than a quarter acre lot. So it may work out as a win-win for everybody here. So Councillor Gusselbrecht, your hand is up.
Why don't we just invite the proponent to watch the council debate here? I think there's been a lot of suggestions thrown at him, and he'll probably have a good idea of the way at least some councillors are thinking. But in my opinion, it's going to come out in the wash. That is through the public consultation, through our debates here. We're going to either accept what he's put forward or not accept it. So he still has time to bring forward an application after listening to what he heard here tonight. So I don't see any reason for not voting, but it's up to council.
Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. May I ask fellow councillors if there is support for asking if we can get seniors oriented housing on this property? If so, it's just as easy as referring it back to staff and directing them to see if it can be worked out to get seniors oriented housing and with amenities, or we could include with some public greenway, public green space with that. But if there is an appetite, I think it would be a huge blessing for all the seniors in Lantzville who have been waiting so long for some accommodations that are small and easy. And this is location, it just can't be duplicated how great it is. So if there's an appetite for that, please let me know or let each other know, and let's just make that motion and see what comes back. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
I can support that, but let's kind of, broaden our look on this a little bit here. I mean, there's a lot of people that are living in Lantzville right now that are actually probably, when I think about it, like around the 10-year, 15-year younger mark than myself, that they can't afford to get into the market here. So let's not just sort of look at seniors as, if you're wanting to, neighborhoods and development succeed when there's diversity as well. And let's not that be lost on us. So I think what Councillor Gesselbrecht said in inviting the applicant to watch this council meeting, this particular debate, is a good idea. And then maybe what we do is we don't pass this tonight, but hopefully the applicant is encouraged to kind of go to the drawing board and look at what they can propose to council that fits with what are the flavor, if you will, of this council meeting is going after. So anyways, I think we can do that. Just kind of defeat this tonight, and hopefully the applicant comes back with an idea that fits with what we've been discussing.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, and then we'll go to you, Councillor Proctor. I think what would probably be best is just to simply refer or direct this back to, well, we can vote on the first and second reading, but then to do a follow-up motion to direct staff to follow up with the applicant regarding the feedback given for this, during this evening's meeting. I think that would be appropriate. In terms of diversity of housing, my only comment to that is we just, council just approved the Clark Med subdivision, which is 250 homes with lots of variety in there. So, and that's what's going to appeal to these, if the first time homeowner or buyer can get into this market, as crazy as it is, then that's going to be their opportune time, is those types of houses. So Director Coates, I see your hands up, and then I got Councillor Proctor and then Councillor Gesselbrecht. And I am aware of the time as well. We're at 9:24. Is that what you're commenting on, Director Coates?
Well, that was one of the things I was going to comment. The other thing is defeating the bylaw will put it into a situation where it can't be brought back for 6 months.
Yes.
So
very good. Yeah.
Want to go there?
So would it be just recommendation then just to postpone it or leave on the table? What would be the recommendation?
Whatever council wishes to do, you can.
Or what's the cleanest way of doing it? So we're not essentially killing the bylaw and preventing the applicant from coming back at, within the next 6 months, right? That's what we don't want to do.
Yeah. So if you do the motion to postpone,
yeah,
then you're going to want to say time and place. And so what is your intent, that something will happen before the 22nd or something?
I don't know. It's whatever the applicant will come back to. So could we just leave on the table, and then when there's staff can bring something back to council, then it can just get resuscitated at that time?
Well, you've got the motion on the floor. You could refer it to staff to provide more information.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Because you may want to know how the community amenities document was applied. But then again, it's a different question than if your question is, why isn't the zoning for something else? That's a different question than how did the community amenity guidelines that you've adopted get applied in this case? Yeah.
All right. So through, I know our time is running short here. So through to Councillor Proctor, did you have something to add to what we're discussing? Okay. And then Councillor Gesselbrecht. Because I'm just gonna propose the motion to refer to staff.
You do it and I'll second it.
Okay, so I'm making the motion to refer the motion on the floor to staff. Do I have a seconder? So second by Councilor Gesselbrecht. Discussion on the referral to staff, and that's procedurally correct through the Director Coates?
Yes, however, it's being referred to staff and there may be an interest from staff in knowing what it's being referred to them for. So if it's to provide additional information about zoning options or additional information.
Well, it's to refer to staff to discuss the feedback that was provided at this council meeting and to provide further information regarding the community amenities contributions. I think that through to the seconder, does that sound adequate? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so so I'm gonna call the question on the referral unless there's any further debate. Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? A little shooting fast on that one. Okay, so that's carried unanimously. So we do need a motion to extend the meeting past 9:30 by unanimous consent. Do we have that? Okay, so I'm seeing a bunch of no's. So at this point, what do we got? So that deals with that. I don't even think we're going to get to the development permit. So item G on the agenda. So I'm just going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Basically everything that's we haven't finished will go on to our next council meeting agenda. So I'm going to make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councilor, anyways, Councilor Wilson, we'll say you got that one. And all those in favor? Okay, and opposed, that's carried unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you.